We're live.
Welcome, everybody. Oh, sure, you have to say that. Okay, welcome, everybody. Capt Ron here, and we have a noticeably understaffed crew here tonight. Diane is working, and we're going to assume Eric is playing. Hopefully, he's doing something fun. So anyway, we're here though. Dieter Staudinger and I are excited about being here as we do every week. We hope you're excited. We have a special guest tonight. Really super guest. She made an appearance last week on our coaching show, our coaching seminar, and she's going to share. I asked her to come back so the rest of the audience could see. She's just fabulous. I've gotten to know Marcia over the time that she's been working through her fear. I'd like to mention our Facebook group. Let me put that up on the screen real quick so that you know what I'm talking about. And that is, of course, our FearlessFlight Birds of a Feather private Facebook group. Anybody is welcome to join, and we certainly encourage you to do that. The membership is climbing. I see just so many additions every week, and it's a place.
Matter of fact, we have actually crossed 1,400 members.
How many?
1,400 members.
1,400, yeah.
Just
Cool.
between last show and this show.
I can remember when we did 200. So that was like, gosh, that's amazing. And it's really neat because the FearlessFlight method is we value education, we value learning how to distract and disrupt and interrupt your thinking, and we value the sense of community and joining a community. And so this is the Birds of a Feather is really an important part of that, to help people feel more comfortable in their own skin, knowing that they're not the only ones out there. Tonight's show, we have I call it the Hall of Fame special guest, Marcia Schafer, and I got another little surprise about somebody I've been working with over the last month who just made he's actually en route right now. I haven't heard that he's reached his final destination, but I just like to recognize people like that. We'll talk to Marcia about how she did it. We'll entertain any questions you have. We'll highlight the monthly live coaching webinar coming up in June, and we'll provide a little bit of information for the Fearless Flyer Club again. Okay. I wanted to say a quick word. Hold it. Oh, my slides, they are so have a mind of their own. Yeah. I can't believe it. Gee, Chris, I can't touch my mouse. So I apologize. Anyway, 15-minute coaching calls. I saw a little bit of a bump in that, and I can handle a few more if you guys are willing. It's one of my favorite things to do, and it's a great place for you to come if you don't have any idea what to do in trying to figure out that next step for you. I highly encourage you to do that. It's real easy. There will be a link in the show notes. And all you got to do is make an appointment. You don't need me at all. You can put it. You'll merge with my schedule, and you can put it up at a time that's convenient for you. And it's a lot of fun. It keeps me really current by listening to people come in with fresh, new faces with all their fears and things like that. So I encourage you to schedule one if you have not. And what I wanted to the Hall of Fame for this week, not to mention Marcia there, but this is Scott Madison. Scott lives down in Sydney, Australia. I first met him, oh my gosh, over 10 years ago. Just a little bit of background. He grew up, was born and raised in Australia, and he married a woman from Germany. And that was the good news. The bad news is she actually likes to go back and visit her family from time to time. So I first worked with him when he's making his first trip with her several years ago, and he was doing well, and then the pandemic hit and he didn't fly. So I think the last time was 2019. So we've been working together here this last month or so, and just last night he got on the airplane in Sydney, Australia, headed to Singapore for the first 8 hours and 15 minutes in that thing. And then he sent me this via text today. This was as he was boarding the second and final leg from Singapore to Frankfurt, which was 12 hours and 50 minutes. And so I'm guessing he's still on the flight there. But anyway, but the thumbs up is a really positive sign for Scott. And so if you think you can't do this, 21 hours and 5 minutes was his scheduled time en route there. So just imagine that. Don't panic because we got somebody coming up in the next second it is, and I'm going to ask her to come on and show her face. This is our special guest, Marcia Schafer, and Marcia flew from Phoenix to Philly to Barcelona, and then came back. So before I lose control here again with my mouse, I'm going to bring her on there. So hey, Marcia, welcome. I'm so glad that you are here tonight. And when did you act? Yeah, did you go? Was it April 17th that you actually left? Okay.
Yes,
okay.
April 17th.
And how long did you spend over there?
I didn't come home until April 28th.
Okay, cool. Because I knew it was
about 2 weeks.
Yeah, I knew
time
it was
changes.
a good long vacation. And first of all, was it fun?
Yes, it was fun. It was absolutely great. Yeah.
Yeah. And we were talking before, and I was commenting about Marcia. I said what a great smile she has, and how uplifted she always is. She talks to me, and then she got laughed. Said, well, that's just giddy. And I can't remember exactly, but you said this is really
Nervous.
serious.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
nervous, giddiness.
Yeah, okay.
Not happiness.
So let's just yeah. So when did you first notice that flying was a thing for you?
I love talking about this. I started flying when I was in high school, and just took flights, and neither here nor there. And I flew all through my 20s, through my 30s. I increasingly began to dislike flying.
Okay.
I also began to be more of like a real hyper nervous, angry type personality. So the two didn't go together. And then I just thought it was 2001, and I took a baseball trip with a friend up to San Francisco from Phoenix. And when I got home that night, I just thought, I don't like to fly. Why am I flying? Why am I getting on these planes? I hate it.
And how long ago was that?
That was in 2001, July of 2001. And then 3 months later, 9/11 happened. So when 9/11 happened, I said, there you go. I'm not going to fly for a couple of years. So
that validated the decision earlier, like this isn't for me. And then you said,
I don't need to fly. And I really don't need to fly now.
Yeah.
And that couple of months of not flying turned into 20, almost 22 years of not getting on a plane.
Holy cow. So how did you find me, of all people, in FearlessFlight?
I got this idea that I got obsessed with Barcelona, Spain.
Okay.
So I went to a travel agent, a friend of a friend, and I told her.
Is that something we should know about that part, what the obsession was? Or
no, I don't think so. I kind of touched on on Thursday, and I'm not going there. But I went to her and I said, I don't fly. I haven't flown in 22 years. But I would like to go, to Spain. Yeah. And she was going to put me on the slow boat, to Spain, Cunard or Canard shipping. And it would be not like a cruise, but it'd be like the Titanic that didn't sink. Yeah. And it sounded all romantic and all this stuff. And I thought I could do that, be on the ocean for 7 days.
Yeah.
And so I kind of was gearing towards that. But then it was either the first or second time I met with the travel agent that she said, there's something down at the airport, a class for people that have fear of flying. Yeah. And I said, well, give me the information because I have to do something. And that was exactly like 3 or 4 days before you were there on that Saturday night. And I got in that class because that Saturday night was like July or August or something. The next class wasn't until September. Right. So I got right in. I went down there on Saturday night, and the rest is history. I have never been the same since that night because I went down there and I said, I am going to do something about this if it's the last thing I do. And I'll never forget walking down the ramp and you saying there were maybe 12 people. And
Right.
you said, is there anybody that's really anxious just walking down this ramp? And I'm like, me, because I could not even walk down the ramp
Sure.
without getting just let me out of here.
Yeah. No.
So we sat on the plane for well over an hour. You answered questions. I thought, hey, this is kind of cool being on a plane and not going anywhere. And then I just investigated Fearless Flight.
Yeah,
That's how I
absolutely.
got started. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like to ask people, what was your why? Because one of the things that over the years that I've heard from a speaker once, they said, in order to really accomplish big goals, you got to have a why. And so it sounds like literally Barcelona was your why. It's like, yeah, that's really cool. And I've got to get do you still remember who the travel agent was?
Yes. You want her name?
I got to do that. Yeah, you don't have to do it now, but I've got to do that because I forgot that part of the story. If you told me before.
Every time I've gone in, she helped me plan this trip. I went in there 5 or 6 times, and I was in there like 2 hours just yakking away. And I talked to her about you, Captain Ron, all the time about how I'm on the planes, I'm flying. I started doing my little short trips. And she was just amazed, and she's going to tell other people because I told her everything that happened to me.
Well, I may get her on the show sometime and just to find out, how many people did she run into that that are like that have a so all that. So
I'll give you her.
Yeah.
Her
so that was the start of it, and then what? So what was your path from then, Marcia?
I just decided that I had to do it come hell or high water, and that I would just follow everything I could and find what really worked, for what was wrong with me, my triggers, my stuff. And I would do, I love 2 big things. The pain in your brain is not from the plane.
Yeah.
And now I can't remember the other one I was going to say. You have to get on the plane. How do you get over fear of flying? You fly out of your seat and into the air, those kind of things. So I said, I'll just fly up to Vegas. I'd been to Vegas airport a million times. And I did 5 short flights, except at
so what you did was you started, and then you started learning and educating yourself.
Yes.
And then you said, the goal for me is going to start with a short flight.
Buying a ticket.
Buying the ticket. Buying the ticket. And
I just did day trips. I did 4 day trips, and I did 1 long trip to Denver where I stayed a week up there. And came back. After a week, but that was my longest trip. But it was 5 flights, just day flights. And did you? What was the experience like? So the first time you decided to fly, and you hadn't flown 22 years, what was that like for you? And you did it all by yourself too, right? You didn't. Yes, I did, because I'm very much an independent. I mean, it's like if you get me nervous, I blame you. It's like I can just kind of. But
I've been blamed before, so that wouldn't be new for me. So
I can't even. It's kind of like, I guess, having a baby or something, which I've never had. I can't remember the real feelings and anxiety that I had that first day that I went down to the airport, and but I know, and I'm a big prayer person, and I know that all along, starting in the parking lot and on the escalator and to the gate, a woman was put there, and I started talking to her, and I said, I'm not following you. And she said, well, I'm going to Vegas. And I said, so am I. And she was on the same plane. She told me where to go. I was with Southwest. She told me how to get in line for the groups. It was like, I couldn't believe it. And I got on the plane, and I just did everything, the whole thing of keeping the anxiety level low. Really is something that I just feel. So, because once I'm beyond a certain anxiety level, and that everything you guys talk about kicks in, I can't think. I'm just let me
Yeah.
out of here.
Yeah.
And so I just focus with that whole of changing your story, changing your thinking, doing things instead of thinking like, oh, they're shutting the door. I'm to the point now, I don't even know they shut the door. I
Wow.
don't even know the door's
Wow.
shut. I think I told you one time when I was on the San Diego flight, we're rolling along, I'm coming home and I'm listening to the harmonizer or something and I'm rolling along and I'm thinking, gee, this is great. I don't even know I'm in the air. And I looked out the window and we hadn't even taken off yet. But I was like just so not connected
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
all the triggers and all the
Yeah.
little minutia or whatever, the
Let
little
me
details.
tell you a quick story like that relates to that. So way back when I was just testing the harmonizer. And so I went, in those days, we would fly between here and Tucson, which turns out was really too short, plus we couldn't get up very high because, it's only 25-minute flight down there. So anyway, so I had Martha was, to this day, I love her to death. And so we were talking and I said, okay, I only had enough harmonizers to give half of the class the harmonizer on the way down and the other half could use it on the way back. Well, the people on the way down, it was just exquisite for them. They got there and it was just a really better. The other people, they were thinking, Martha was thinking, we're thinking about renting a car and driving back to Phoenix. And I said, well, try the harmonizer. Well, it turned out it worked. And she had lost a friend there was a Northwest crash way back in 1987.
Yes.
That was coming to Phoenix.
I had a good friend whose brother
killed
was
everybody
killed
except a 3-year-old girl on that, and it was one of her neighbors. She was living in Detroit at the time, and so that's what stopped her. Anyway, so to shorten this story, so she ended up using the harmonizer. That was the thing she did every time she had to make sure she had that. So she embarked on a round the world trip. I think it was either just before or just after 9/11. It was incredible. And she didn't, must have been after because she didn't get talked out of it and stuff. But anyway, there was one leg and she'd get in her seat, build a nest, put the harmonizer on. And so this one leg, she fell asleep. Okay. And so that she wakes up and she thought, wow, that harmonizer is really great. I didn't even realize that we had done it. And the guy next to her says, I hate to tell you this thing. We've been stuck here on a mechanical and move. So it's the same kind of thing.
That's what it was like, yeah.
And her point was that, before that, she wouldn't have been able to relax that much to even go to sleep. So, but we have a good laugh over that. So,
haven't even left the ground. Yeah.
So when you said that was funny. So you, and I just want to say, you were like my pen pal because I still do. I get so many emails from you, and people don't realize how important that is, not for me, but for you, I think, because you were always checking things out, and you would, every time you had a question, I shouldn't say every time, but you had questions, and you would just keep telling me when you felt like you needed to get more information, and I can't overemphasize that. That's what helps people get over this. It's persistence, I swear, is the most important ingredient you need. And you exemplify that. You just never gave up and you just kept going. And it's just incredible.
I really think too, when people talk and like being in a group, like you talk about the community, when you become a part of that and you talk, you hear yourself and you get more in touch of what's really your problem. And, what works for me might not work for this guy over here. Sure. But the trick is to really find out where you really are set off.
That's really,
if I don't know that, then I'm not going to be able to, I have to know what to look out for when I get on those planes. I have to know that it's really important that I'm prepared. I love when in the beginning, we talked a lot about if you fail to prepare, then you will prepare to fail.
Exactly.
And I kept thinking that all the time, no matter what, be in the solution of this problem because it's really important.
And when And when you do that, you mentioned I want to amplify when I have people that join me for a 15-minute coaching session, they're often amazed that, because they'll say something, I don't like to fly. And I'll say, well, tell me more about that. And they don't realize that that's just the surface. And, the easy part is to feel all the angst that you have emotionally in your body because your biology is just tripping out, but the hard part is to realize specifically what is below that. And you said it's different for everyone. Everybody says, I don't like claustrophobia, but when you go even below that, you find out everybody's got their own little spin on what it's about feeling trapped that keeps them.
I absolutely refused to use the words fear of flying, or I was afraid to fly, or even anxiety. My excuse was always, I would say, I'm severely claustrophobic, is what I would say.
Right.
And somehow that was more palatable to me than saying that I had a fear.
Yeah.
And I got kind of over the hump when, after about the third flight or something, I was able to say to friends, I'm really getting over this fear I have of flying, and use that terminology and name it what it really was, because it was an anxiety disorder, which is what you talk about all the time. Yeah. And I never looked at it that way. I never compared it to, my thing of jumping off an elevator is not the same thing as the airplane. It is the same thing underneath. Sure
it is, and that's what I tell people or ask people, I said, you say that you're not worried about the structural integrity of the airplane or the, crashing and stuff like that. But I said, if it weren't for some underlying fear about flying, why would it matter whether you would just sit in an airplane for an hour or 4 or 8,
Yes.
And it's related. But
I think how this anticipatory anxiety, I never knew what that was. I never understood that. And you guys have filled in that gap for me also, because it had nothing to do with me being at the airport. Right. And I thought that's right. I'm just doing this and sitting in my house. You'd think I was being hauled off to the, guillotine or something. I was just so anxious. And this might be a little off the subject, but when I was in Paris, that's a claustrophobic's nightmare, Paris.
You're right.
The first night I arrived, I had a great time in Barcelona. I got there and they put me in this little 10 by 12 room. And I had an anxiety. I really did have an anxiety attack. I was tired. I went down to the desk. I said, I need to be moved to a different room. I have an anxiety disorder. Yeah. And I was all flipping out. You're going to have a medical emergency. I mean, I never do this, but I did it because I was upset. And then I went back to the room and I thought, I'm not driving my truck across Oklahoma. I'm in Paris, France, for crying out loud. I'm not leaving. So I did what I learned in this class for anxiety. I pretended I was on the plane and I wasn't going anywhere. I couldn't shut the door to the room because I was so claustrophobic. But I used everything that I've been taught in this class in regards to anxiety, and started doing it, changing the story, thinking different. The next morning I went down and I said, I'm just going to deal with this and I'll just stay in this room. Yeah. And it all worked out. And it worked out because of what I learned about anxiety and my problem with it in this class. So I thank you for that, because you've said often, this can work in other problems in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And boy, do I believe that. It's not only made me so I can get on an airplane and fly anywhere I wanna, but it's made me deal with other anxiety situations in my life that I didn't deal with so great before.
Well, that's awesome.
So it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me. The whole, because it's a change of thinking thing. And once I got committed to doing it and really wanting to achieve a goal with it, and just saying I've had enough, then it can work, it can really work.
And this might be, you know, a question that's not worth answering because you've given so much about it. But what was the biggest challenge? And not during while you were overcoming your fear flying, but what was the biggest challenge in that 22 years that kept you from not flying?
You know, that's interesting because I was thinking about that. And that is, you know, I have mentioned that the biggest challenge was changing the thinking.
Okay.
You know, you get comfortable with your story, your way of thinking. You know, it might be crazy, but it's your crazy. You know, you get comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And
I got a couple of things about that. One is, you know, it may not be comfortable, but it's familiar, you know.
right.
And we don't often think of thinking as a habit, but it's one of the deepest ingrained habits, right?
Exactly.
So I get up every day and I put one sock on before I put the other one on. I don't even think about it, but I'll bet you if you were to watch me, I'll bet I've done that same thing for the last 50, 60 years, you know? Yeah. So thinking, and so I'll just, you know, kind of round it off and say that thinking is probably the biggest challenge for everybody.
Yes,
it's just,
definitely.
Can I change
Because
that?
I did not believe that I had control over my thinking.
Right.
I kind of always think I'm at that I just don't have that, that power to change my thinking or something. I believed that was like a false belief.
Yeah,
I read a thing the other day. Your fear of losing control is really only, see, now I can't remember it, but you're fearful of losing control, but you're not losing control. You're only feeling anxiety.
Right.
You know,
right.
you never have the control.
No,
it's just how you think of it.
Exactly. It's an illusion that we have.
It's an illusion.
And like thinking, we engage in automatic behaviors and we just assume that's the way it is, but it really isn't. Well, the last thing is, you know, any advice for anybody other than what, you know, people have gained from insight for listening to you, any advice to people out there who, you know, like when I have people that come for the 15-minute coaching sessions, it's so hard for them to believe or to see themselves in any other state of mind, you know, because it's become so deep for them, whether they flew for years and then all of a sudden became afraid, or whether they've never flown, or whether it's just been a recent event. But it's hard for them to imagine themselves in any other capability. So what, you know, again, if you have any other words of wisdom, you know, so what would you say to people out there that, you know, are looking at you and say, oh yeah, but, you know, typically they say Marcia really wasn't that bad at all.
Right. That's exactly that's what you always think. You always think, you know, hey, I'm the worst case scenario, you know.
Sure.
And you know, I just think, you know, I'm not an advice giver. I'm really not. You know, I do think that, you know, you just got to do it for yourself, you know, and then it ripples off to your family and friends and stuff like that and your life experiences. But you just got to dig deep and be committed to it, you know, and follow some direction. You know, right now I have a friend who's just off in all these directions. She's following her own advice and she just gets in a bigger mess by the day, you know, and I needed direction and structure from you guys to be able to get out of the mess that I was in, you know, that my thinking got me into over a period of 22 years that just flew by.
Yeah.
And I think there just has to be a dedication there, and you got to do it for yourself, and you got to believe in it. You know, and pray your butt off. I'm like I said before, I'm a big prayer.
I hear you.
You got to take God with you. I believe.
Well, let me just throw it out to Dieter and see if we have anybody who has any. There's always probably somebody who's been out there praising you and all that. We'll see if anybody's got any questions or anything like that. And oops, don't do that. I got it. This mind of its own. Talk about a mind of its own. Anyway, I wanted to show just to prove that you actually went there. There's the I love the shot you gave me of the freeway in Barcelona. That's a great one. And then the tower down there.
Christopher Columbus statue.
Oh yeah, that's right. That is Columbus.
Yeah.
Rachel, you have contrails. You see the contrails over his head? That little wisp of white.
Yeah.
That's from an airliner.
I have about 10 pictures of that Christopher Columbus statue. I'm like,
yeah. And that looks like, was it a 777 that you rode out of Philly?
I don't know.
I'm trying to think. It might have been a 787. I can't tell. Not that it really matters. And then of course,
I'm not even sure that's the exact plane because there were a couple of,
Oh yeah, sure. Anyway, and then the Eiffel Tower, of course, and the Arc de Triomphe over there. So anyway, I'll ask Dieter if he's got any comments from anybody out there and or questions.
Yeah, so first of all, I saw at different times lots of hearts and thumbs up. A lot of people could really relate to. A specific question was, so you were doing really, really well. Was there at all a moment when you were over the open water where there was kind of like a coming to, whoa, I'm doing this, what's happening? That was one question. How did you, was that
I would have periodically on all of my trial trips and my big trip, but the minute those kind of thoughts would enter my mind, I'd say, nope, not go there. Do the writing, goodbye to that idea. Do not entertain that idea of I'm over the ocean. Or I'm on this plane, the ride home to Chicago from Paris was 10 hours. Mm-hmm. I could not for like 5 seconds think I'm on this plane for 10 hours.
So the message to everybody,
that's just making it hard.
Yeah.
And I think to everybody is that you were very much prepared for it.
Yeah.
So when you did encounter those triggers, you actually knew how you're going to respond to it.
Yeah.
Right? Gave me the solutions. And you have to have a certain amount of discipline because you have to say, I'm not going there. Captain Ron and Dieter told me this, and I'm going to listen to that because that's going to save me from going up to a level 9 anxiety of which I will be over.
Yeah.
And the last coaching session we did last Thursday, we're embarking on that more to come up with more tools to help people that don't maybe have all of the will and the self-discipline that you do, and I talk about that, just chunking a flight down, no matter how long it is, to 20-minute segments or something. And no matter how silly it seems, in 20 minutes, you bring a quote from, one of your famous comedians or something like that. And you just say, I'm going to put it on a card, and in 20 minutes into the flight, I'm going to get it out and read it, but the commitment now is not for the whole flight. The commitment's not to get over your fear. The commitment is just to follow what you said for a path on that, and the analogy
one step at a time, 1 minute at a time.
Right. The same way we fly the airplane. Yeah.
Success breeds success. The whole thing, you get thinking of yourself as on your way out of this mess instead of, I'm stuck in this horrible, never being able to fly business.
Yeah. And it's so important to have steps like that. And you are one of the most well-spoken people that I've had, really, seriously, in a long time, to describe the process for you. And that's, and nobody could say it better than that. We try all the time, but you don't have the credibility that you do about, you just got to keep doing. And the fact that you did those practice flights, I think, was really helpful too. If people have the resources.
They were. And I have to keep continuing. I'm not going to say, okay, I went to Barcelona, I'm happy, who cares? I'm going to keep reinforcing what you guys, I'm a lifetime member, and I'm going to keep reinforcing that, or else I'll just go back to.
But that is exactly the key from what I'm hearing from you. Not only do you recognize that, you had to find your own process, right? What uniquely works for you. But more importantly, you also had to find your own commitment to that, right? I mean, it's knowing what to do and then actually doing it when it is required. Those are two different things. A lot of us have conceptual knowledge about a lot of things, right?
Yes,
But then when you're actually in the situation and, life is pulsing through your veins and
that's right.
including
right.
all the anxiety, that's a different
Reality,
story.
yeah.
Exactly. And so we have to learn how to meet that before it overwhelms us, right? And that's, I think, what you did so
Yes, I
yeah, so wow.
think that.
And so you happen to be one of the first people when we first started doing the 201 course. We a lot of the content is from, we did it live in a live webinar right after the pandemic started, and it was obvious that we had no idea when we were going to be able to have people in a room together. And so you were one of the first people that did that. And I'm not proud to say, but it was a ragtag effort to get this up on online and all that. And so, can you just speak to the fact of how helpful the course was for you?
Oh, 100% helpful. It was everything to me. And he answered, the questions that I had, the things I couldn't understand what was wrong with me, why I had let this get 22 years and just, and I've told the story of how I was supposed to go visit my brother in Hawaii. And I completely lost my mind with anticipatory anxiety.
Sure,
and
sure.
I said to myself, this is so out of control. I really have a problem. I mean, this is, and I canceled the trip. And I couldn't believe the problem that I had when I kind of woke up and thought, and then when more things started happening that mattered. Because for many years, I didn't care. I just liked driving around. I didn't care. I didn't want to go to Barcelona or any place. I was perfectly happy driving around.
Well,
but when I started to care, Well,
I appreciate that. And just kind of for people who are thinking about it or whatever, it's now on demand. We have an app that you can do it. You don't have to wait for a formal class or anything like that. However, we do have monthly live coaching sessions, and you get those included for the 60 days that you're enrolled in the course there. It adds to the sense of community, and there's not only a lot of content in there, but I am finally getting to the point where I'm adding more content, and we'll see that for that. And then you've been coming to the coaching webinars as well as a lifetime member, and so you're going to always have access to the online course, and I just love you coming back, Marcia. It's just incredibly valuable to other people out there. Speaking of the monthly webinars, the next one is going to be June 15th. That's the third Thursday of June. And Dieter said, what are we going to call it? I said, the sky's the limit. I thought that was a pretty good short-term branding there. And what we're going to talk about is I'm trying to get more and more participation from people to come in there and would do some live coaching as part of that, and then we'll always have some kind of new content or something to offer people out there as well. But we're going to do that on June 15th, and then for anybody, even if you don't choose to join the 201, you still have an option of becoming a member of our Fearless Flyer Club, and that's a growing number as well. And the thing that you said, Marcia, that's so key is you got to stay connected until you absolutely positively don't have even a shred of anxiety, when you think about flying, because it is a skill. There's a skill. And like you said, it's playing on habitual thinking that people have. And, it's just, there's no substitution for staying connected to people who are going through the same things as you are. So anyway, so I want to thank you so much again.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Dieter.
And I want to thank you so much for the feedback you've given me over the last, holy cow, it's just about coming up on a year here pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
10 months, 11 months, because it's been invaluable as we've been developing the 201 course and other things out there. But just I look forward to your emails. I haven't heard from Marcia in a week, and then pretty soon one comes in, and you tend to use big letters and bold, so it's easy on my eyes too. So So I could just look at the email and I wouldn't even have to open it. I could tell it was from you. So that was just a personal bit of joy that I had there. So anyway, so Dieter, anything else that you need to discuss here, or?
No, not immediately, but I do want to say, because a couple of people commented on, one of the things that you did, Marcia, and that was start with short flights. And I just want to say, if that is at all an option for you out there, Southwest in particular has sales on all the time where you can go for $50, $60, $70 one way on a short hop. And then come back the same day. I think that you found that really helpful, right, Marcia?
Yeah.
I
And
did like to Vegas, to Burbank, to Phoenix. So I did like 3 flights for like $100.
Yeah.
But I got I got on and off and did the 3 times in one trip. So,
and when we do that in the 301 class, what I've noticed over the years is that the most of the stress is getting on the first leg and getting to that first destination. But after that, the repetition, whether it's 1 or 2 legs after that, you can tell people it's nothing like the first leg that day. They've made a huge leap of confidence in it, and that's what the value of it. And then one of the things that we specialize in or really value is, if you do have a spouse or a partner or somebody that's going to fly with you, we can help them find things that they can do to support you, rather than the obligatory things that they feel they got to do, like talk you out of it or whatever, and it ends up sometimes blowing up, and then they get hurt feelings and all that. So there are some very specific things that you can do if you're trying to support somebody. It doesn't take a lot of education. You don't have to be a psychologist or anything, but it's helpful to have a couple of steps to do that. So anyway, I'm really grateful for you, Marcia, and really appreciate you and giving of your time and your energy and your enthusiasm, giddy or not. I don't care. It really works for me. And so thanks again for coming tonight. Yep.
Thank you.
And Dieter, thanks again. I appreciate you so much. And we appreciate all of you out there that make it kind of fun to do this every week. So keep coming back. And that's another edition of Fearless Flight Live. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.